Hi everyone, as I mentioned last week in the debrief, this week we're going to start the portraiture project, and in this video tutorial I will take you through some of the basic knowledge that you need in order to draw an eye. So hopefully yours will end up something looking like this, but just to start off with, I'll go through some of the basics that you need to bear in mind when you start your drawing. It's up to you how you use this video. You can draw along with me and pause it as you go, or you can watch the video and then afterwards go and find an image of your own that you want to draw. Okay, so I think the best thing to do is just get started. The first thing that you need to bear in mind and start with is the tear duct, and then the tear duct is in line with the other side of the eye. Something that you need to bear in mind at this stage is that the two curves of the eye are different shapes. So I will do what not to do up here. So your eye is not symmetrical like that, okay? The curve on the bottom of the line is much shallower than the curve on the top of the line. So it looks something like that. Then what you need to do is to make sure that when you place the iris in your drawing, so that is the coloured part of your eye, that you don't see all of it in your image, okay? You only need to see part of it. Normally when your eye is just like resting and you're just looking forward, it's cut off by the top of the eye, top of the eyelid, and then it sort of rests on the bottom eyelid. And the pupil, which is the black part of the eye, goes directly in the centre. And that is going to be the darkest part of your drawing. And that is because your pupil is actually a hole that goes into the middle of your eye. And that is why I've put an eye anatomy image on the slide. So don't think that's random. It's there to prove that this pupil is a hole that goes into the centre of your eye. When you are starting to apply tone to the white of the eye, the white of your eye is never actually just solid white. There is always tone on there. What I'm going to do down here is just sort of prove that to you. Your eyeball is essentially a circle, a sphere, and your iris is in the very middle of that. Drawing circles is hard. And then your pupil is again directly in the centre of that. And as you know, if you've ever toned a sphere before, there is not one section, except for maybe the highlight at the top. It's pretty much all grey tone. And then your eyelids would go there, and there. This is a really rough drawing just to show you that none of this white of the eye is actually white, okay? So when you apply that to your drawing, you need to bear that in mind. I often, once my pencil is sharp, I often use the side of my pencil like that, just to get a nice soft tone applied that we can start off with. I'm going to do it on both sides, like that. And then also we're going to add in this sort of darker tone here. This side's darker than that side in this case. So again, using the side of my pencil, I'm going to start to apply that darker tone. And then also you're going to have a little bit of dark tone on this side of the eye as well, and that is because your eye is a 3D curved object, and normally the things that are closest to us, so if you're normally shading, say, a cylinder, normally the sides are darker, and then the section that is closest to us is the lightest part, and that is the same in the eye, to try to make it look like a curved sphere. So I'm going to have to start turning my paper, because otherwise I can't add the tone properly. So just going to add a little bit of mid-tone there as well. And then something else that you need to know is that at the top here, underneath the top eyelid, there is always a shadow. And I will tell you why in just a second. So I'm just going to apply that in. And we may need to go back to that a little bit later and darken that up once we've added in some more tone. But I'll leave it like that for now. And the reason that there's a shadow there is because I'm just going to draw in a really quick eyebrow. Okay. So your eyebrow there, if you feel your face now, your eyebrow is much further out than your eye socket. And that is because your eyebrow rests on your brow bone, and then your eye, as I've just said, it's inside a socket. So your brow bone sticks out on your face, and then when the light shines on your face, it casts a shadow onto the top of your eye from your brow bone. It's weird. You might have never noticed that before, but if you look in most pictures of eyes, unless they're underlit, there's a shadow at the top. Okay, that's looking all right. And then obviously the coloured section of the eye, the iris, that bit is going to automatically be darker than the rest of the eye because it has a colour on it. So just apply that now. As I said, if you're drawing along with me, just pause it at any point. I know I'm going quite fast, just so that the video doesn't last an hour long. Also, feel free to watch any YouTube videos on drawings of eyes. Those YouTubers are much more used to talking to a camera than we are. But these are the things in this video that I want you to bear in mind when you're doing your drawing. Okay, so something else about the coloured section, the iris, it is always darker on the outside. So just going to add that in now, so almost like an outline, but you don't want it to be a solid line, you want to almost blend it back in. So it's like a blur when you're doing it. So something like that, but all the way around. And as you go, just make sure you keep sharpening your pencil. I'm going to have to do mine in a second. Try and get this bit done. Okay, so I've got that bit there. Let me just sharpen the pencil. There we go. And then what we're going to do is just to darken that shadow just a little bit again, and blend it out a little bit more. There we go. And then something that you also need to bear in mind is the lash lines. So you have a lower lash line. Let me just make that line a little bit more clear. We're adding the lash line. It's sketchy. There we go. Okay, so the lower lash line is quite thin. You don't want to do it, that's my bad example, you don't want to do it really big, and it needs to be parallel with the line that's already there. Okay, and then you have a top lash line, but I'll just put in sort of a guide. We're not really going to use this, but that's a guide where the lashes are going to go a little bit later. But this bit, that is important. You don't want to make it look like an outline. It needs to be very lightly done. So what I normally do is just draw mine in and then rub it out a little bit so it's fainter. Okay. Then what you can do is start to add in the eyelid, which looks, make sure if you're drawing from an image, well, I recommend all of you draw from an image, not from me, because I'm drawing from an image, that you look at the shape of the lines. That is sort of like the top of a trapezium, and it looks weird, but that's the shape that I've got in front of me. Then I'm going to start to add in some of the tone around the eye, and then I can see how light or dark the tone on the actual eyeball needs to go. So I'm going to start to add in that now. And again, I'm still using the side of my pencil just to get that soft tone, because we are now drawing skin. All the time, I'm thinking about the pressure of my pencil, how light do I need to go, how much darker do I need to go, and constantly trying to match the tone that's next to it so I can easily blend in those tones together. This section's usually a bit darker because that's where the nose would go. And then the eyelid tone. And then I'm going to blend in that eyelid, because things that are darker, more far away, and then the front section of the eyelid is the bit that's closest to us, so that's what is going to be the lightest section. So I'm going dark to light up there because that's the crease of your eyelid, and then it comes out onto the brow bone, and then the crease of the eyelid is dark again, and then to the eyelid because that is coming out of your eye socket. Something like that. And then I'm just going to do the bottom section as well. So I'm sort of placing that eye that we're drawing onto face. So I'm just going to add in a light tone first. And then we have the lower, I don't know what that's called, the crease, where your eyeball, of your lower lid, where it's going around your eyeball. So that line should be more there really. Okay. And the more tired you are, the bigger it is. Okay. What you don't want to do on this section is exaggerate your tone too much, because otherwise it will look like black circles under the eye. So it is quite a light tone. But it's still there. Get this bit right. Okay. And again, because that lower crease is further away, it's dark to light going upwards. And your lid, your lower lid needs to be darker than that lash line there. If you miss out the lash line, it's really important to add it back in, otherwise when you add the lashes it'll look like they're coming out of your eyeball, and that is not natural. I'm just going to add back in this skin tone here so it blends in nicely. Sorry if you have to keep turning your head to watch this, I can't draw it straight on. Right, so that's looking better. Now we're going to focus on the detail on the eye for a second. So on your iris there are lots of patterns. Just going to make that a little bit bigger, I think. So you need to look really, really carefully at the patterns that you're about to add in. You don't want to lose this dark to light here. The outside is always the darkest section. You want to add in the creases around the pupil, because as you might know, like when light goes into your eye, your pupil goes smaller, and then when there isn't a lot of light in the dark, your pupils go bigger. So this is sort of like a little muscle, the iris, and so there are creases around it for when it contracts. So you want to make sure you've got those in there. And then you're going to add in, this is where you need a picture, or if you're doing it of your own eye, you need to carefully look in the mirror. So there are lots of patterns on the iris, as I've said. So now you're going to start to add some of those in. Try not to make it look uniform, otherwise it will look weird. And when you're adding in these patterns, you want to make sure that you're going on a diagonal from the centre outwards. And then after we've done that all the way around, I'm going to add in some of the light and the dark tones on the iris. The one I've got's got like an X here. Okay, just a few more. Okay, so now I'm going to just darken that again a little bit. I'm also going to emphasise those lines that we added in just before, just by adding in a little bit of tone around there, turning it as I go. And I know that some of you haven't got your art packs at home, but some of you have. You can use a HB pencil for this. I'm just using a B pencil, but if you've got softer pencils, use those so you can get the darker tones. Okay, what does that look like? There we go. Okay, and then we're going to start to add in some of the darker tones on the patterns down here. So have a look on your image and identify where those are. Some people have like coloured spots in their eyes as well, so make sure you add in all of the detail that is on the image that you're working from, because that is the way that you get a much stronger drawing. Okay, you can sort of start to see the pattern of the iris coming through. Keep going all the way around. You can speed through this while I'm doing this, just drag it through to the bit that you need. Play it in the background, up to you. Use the video how you need to. Almost there. And then what I think I would do at this point again, darken this shadow again. So you can always just adjust the tones as you go along. Just going to darken that core white a bit more actually. On there, so it looks like it has more depth. And blend that back out. Okay, so then you've got that. What you can do at this point before you add in the eyelashes is add in a highlight onto the eye, just to give it that extra 3D effect. And what you can do, what I normally do, is chop up your rubber so you've got like a point on it, and then decide where it's going to go. Where is it on mine? Sort of there. and you get that much sharper line than you would with a dull rubber. And if you do have a gel pen as well, white gel pen, you can do that with that. I'm going to use the gel pen after for something else, so wait and see what that is. Now I think I'm ready to add in the eyelashes. That eyebrow's stressing me out because I haven't drawn it very well. Sorry. Right, now we're going to draw the lashes, and what you don't want to do is do them straight like that, having them come out like they're some sort of cartoon. Okay, what you want to do is like flick them. So if they're on the top lash line, they're going to go down and up. And if they're on the bottom lash line, they're going to go up and down and out like that. Okay, and then you can also see how that, even without the iris and all of the rest of the tone that we've already put in, it already makes it look more 3D and like it's coming out of the eye and out towards you, whereas that just looks like terrible. So now we're going to add those lashes onto the eye, and that is where this lash line that we did earlier comes in to play. So you don't want to have them coming out of the eyeball, you want to have them coming out of the lash line. Okay, and what it's really, really important to know is that the lashes on the corner and the outer corner, all the inner corners though, are much smaller, and then as you go along they're bigger, and then they sort of go smaller again, but not as small as this. And also what you don't want to do is have them uniform like this. Some of them are clumped together, some of them are more spaced apart. It's okay for them not all to look perfect. It's almost better when they don't. And again, you need a really sharp pencil for this, because otherwise you're not going to get a sharp line, and that is what you want. You don't want blurry eyelashes. So here you go again, that's better. See how the sharpness of that line is much better than those lashes there. They look terrible. So make sure that your pencil is really sharp. And again, you might have some coming out at the same point. They might be clumped together in some places. You don't want to add too many in, but you also don't want to not have enough. So just make sure you're copying the image that you're working from. What I've realised is that the grey of the eye and the grey of the skin are actually a little bit too light, because you can't see the lash line very well. So I'm just going to adjust that quickly so that you can see it better on the video. Oh, scratchy pencil. So I can already see that lash line popping out a little bit clearer. I'm just going to darken up the white of the eye a little bit. And obviously the white of the eye needs to be sort of the lightest section on your drawing. So you don't want it to be really, really dark. I just want it to show that lash line a little bit clearer. Okay, and then I'm going to add in the top lashes. I'm just going to smooth this tone out a little bit more. If you do have a blending stump or a cotton bud, this is where you can easily get that soft tone. I'll just show you. You don't want to do like big lines like that because then you get the clumps of the tone. You just want to spread it out, little circles. Just to blend that out a little bit. Smoother, and this is much darker now because I didn't plan to use this, but oh well. Just to show you, and you can do the exact same thing if you've got any cotton buds at home. Just because I want to keep that light tone, I'm just going to use it the same as I would a pencil, lighten my pressure as I get to the front there. And then if you did want to, you could also do the same for the eye, but I feel like that will go quite dark because I've just done pencil tone instead of doing blending, stump blending. Okay, and then once you've used a blending stump, normally you do have to just darken those darkest areas, because what the blending stump is doing is moving the graphite about so it can dilute the tone, if you like. And it's also pushing it into the paper so that you get an even softer tone. Okay, so now the top lashes, the most stressful part of this whole drawing. Again, the ones in the closest to the tear duct are the smallest. And then normally the ones at the end sort of go down before they start to come up. Especially if you're drawing somebody with makeup on, they will probably have much thicker, much darker lashes. Again, with the clumps, make sure you add in those. Said not to do them uniform, I'm not doing quite uniform, so I've gone against what I've said. Let's do some to the side. Because nobody's eyelashes are perfect. They're all sort of like random, going out different lengths, different angles. That's way too bright there. It's getting there. don't want to put too many on, I don't want to go crazy. Okay. And then you want to make sure that you've done the tone on the tear duct. Okay. Adding that tone again from here. I don't think that's quite dark enough. And then what you can do with a gel pen is add in, you're going to add in the highlights with the rubber, or you can add in highlights with the gel pen. The gel pen is just more easier to use, but obviously not everybody will have one. Also what you can do is just add in the lightest sections. On the lash line and on the eyelid. And then that is pretty much finished. This is one I did earlier, and that is much better, only because I spent more time on it and I didn't rush through and I wasn't talking to myself while I was doing it. So let's just compare these if we can. If not, I will. No. Oh, fold that. There we go, ish. Yeah. Although actually the tone on here looks darker than on there, so I would want to go back in and darken those tones back up. I like that I chose an image here where you had sort of the eyelashes reflecting back into the eye. That makes it look much more shiny because it's reflecting that. I think if I added in maybe some gel pen on here, that might just make that even more effective. Just brings out the wetness of the eye if you use a gel pen. It looks nice. You don't want to go mad with it. That looks really good. Yeah, happy with that. Hopefully from this video you've got some hints and tips of how to draw an eye. The basics are the tone, so make sure that the white of the eye isn't white. Make sure that the iris around the outside is much darker than the rest of the iris. Make sure that it's blended in. Make sure that the centre part of the iris is lighter. Make sure that the pupil is the darkest bit on your whole drawing. Remember the shadow at the top of the lid. Remember to add in the tone of the face as well, the skin around it. If you want to experiment with maybe drawing in like the suggestion of a nose here, maybe you could do that as well. It's depending on how much time you've got really, but the main part of this week's task is to focus on the tone of the eye. Okay, so that is the most important bit to sort of perfect. And remember that eyelashes need to be, they don't need to be uniform, they need to be clumped together, they need to be random angles to make them look more natural, and to make sure that they are flicks. Okay, really important, and make sure you've got a really sharp pencil on that one as well. Okay, hopefully I've included everything that I need to. Enjoy drawing your eyes. Make sure that you use either an image or you're using a mirror, and just have fun. See you next week. Bye.